think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
No. I am your father.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist.
You're listening to After the Ending, the only film podcast where we tell you what happens after the ending of your favorite films. And now, here are your hosts, Mike Spring and Phil Edwards.
Hello and welcome to After the Ending. I'm Mike Spring.
And I'm Phil Edwards.
And we are here with our post-credits episode, which means you get a top 5 list where we share our top 5 film something or another, and our ATE recommends, where we share what we're into right now, something we're watching or listening to or reading or any number of things. So that's what you're in for in the next half hour or so. Phil, tell people what we're talking about in our top 5 list today.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about our favorite top 5 serial killer movies.
Yes, a nice cheerful subject.
Yes, it's close to my heart.
I was going to say,
the films, not the serial killers.
Right, yeah, maybe. For people who are longtime listeners of the show, you will know that Phil has a tendency to bring serial killers into his After the Endings, which...
It's just a natural progression, though, like Bambi. Obviously, it's going to turn, serial killer.
I think what's funny is, we joke about it a lot. It's not like you do it all the time.
No.
It was like every 10 episodes or so. But we also used to do 2 After the Endings per episode, right? So you figure over the course of 100 episodes, it's a lot of endings you got to come up with. So sometimes it's just sort of natural to introduce. I know for a fact I repeated elements in my endings. Yeah,
I think the thing was, though, some of them was when they'd be a serial killer in a film, or you just wouldn't expect it, and it was quite a bit of a swear, but it always made sense at the time.
Right. I'm that's definitely not a criticism. It's just
no.
Like I said, the longtime listeners will get a chuckle out of us talking about our serial killer films because they're like, oh, this is right up Phil's alley.
Yeah. It's funny though, because they're not like my favorite kind of films, but I do like. It is. Well, serial killers just seem to capture the public. Capture the public's. We always want to know, like, the amount of documentaries and TV shows which are based around serial killers, and it's quite shocking when you think about it, because lots of them are mainstream as well. But it's just, we seem to have this fascination with these people who do terrible things.
Yeah, and I think there's a reason for that, though, which people sometimes will criticize, like, oh, America's fascinated with serial killers, or people are fascinated with serial killers, and it's like, well, but if you think about it, right, like, serial killers are kind of the most, and I don't want to get morbid here, but they're kind of the most fascinating version of murder that's out there, right? Like, if you tell me a story about, a domestic disturbance that goes wrong, and, a husband shoots his wife, or a wife shoots her husband, it's kind of like, okay, I see what happened there, and all right, it's story's told, right? And I'm not trying to make light of it or downplay all murder is terrible, but it's sort of like there's just not much more to the story, right?
Yeah.
With the serial killer, there is always the added element of the mystery, right?
Yeah, exactly.
People have that. If there's a bank robbery and somebody gets shot and killed, it's like, well, we know what happened. We know who did it. It was that bank robber, and eventually they usually find out who the bank robber was. But the serial killer, though, it can go on for weeks, months, years without knowing who it is. So it's not the murder, I think, that attracts people. It's the mystery of it that you don't get with other kinds of murder.
Yeah, it's a story, isn't it? You've got a big story and mystery, which is ongoing and can take in many different things. And yeah, I think that's, you've hit the nail on the head there. It's a mystery story, and people like a good mystery, and they want to try and solve it. I mean, like Patton Oswalt's wife, who sadly passed away, though she was doing research on a book about a serial killer. I can't remember the name, but
PK killer, yeah,
that's it. Yeah, but her research and everything did lead to a conviction years and years after the fact as well. So it's I think it's because people. We're fascinated by it, but you can also get involved in, solving the clues and things like this. And
right. It's almost an interactive element to it in a way. If it's a long-running mystery where you're sort of like, well, what about this? Did they think about this? And you can sort of follow along, I guess, which again sounds kind of crass, but I don't mean it to. But
it's a very morbid and macabre thing, but it's just one which just seems to be, well, the fact we keep making them. Yeah. And there are so many good serial killer things. But it's
right.
That's why it's probably a tricky list to do.
Yeah. I think maybe some of my answers, some of my listing ones are pretty obvious, but we do have a viewer comment from Jay, who says it's the curiousness of it all, and I agree, Jay. Right? There is this like it's because beyond just the mystery of who's doing it, there's always these serial killer kind of hallmarks, right? There's this pathology to it that we don't understand, right? Why do they do it? How do they pick their victims? Are they taking trophies? All those things you've seen a million times in Hollywood movies and stuff that are true. You're very curious about like what kind of person would do that and why and how and all of that stuff. There's just so much more to want to know and understand about them. So good point there.
And it's not just films and TV. There's so many genres. There's all the books about real and fictitious ones before and after the fact as well. And just the amount of podcasts out there which deal with
true crime podcasts are, for sure.
It's crazy. It's crazy how many things are out there all around this subject matter. I mean, there's the excellent Manhunter TV show as well. Mindhunter, sorry. That was which I hope we do one day get a season 3. But because it's good because there's a fascination with the actual crime and the perpetrator of the crime, but also those investigating it. You can have a film dealing with one or the other or both, and it's still going to be a fascinating watch.
Right. And I was thinking because true crime podcasts are just so incredibly popular, I did want to make an announcement that starting next week, after the ending was going to be called After the Murder, and we're going to turn into a true crime podcast now. So we're not talking about movies anymore. We're just going to talk about we're going to solve cases together. Phil and Mike, inter-Atlantic detectives.
Yeah, the new Scooby Gang.
Yeah. So just something for you guys to look forward to.
Oh God, we'd be dreadful
investigator. I'd be like, hey, did you guys notice that person's got a knife sticking out of them? Did you look into that? Because that might be a clue. I don't know. Maybe that's pretty much how it would go if I was a detective.
I'd just be looking for the donuts, I think.
You're right. Is there like a craft services table set up around the murder scene? How does that work? How do I get fed while I'm dusting fingerprints?
Yeah, we'll wait for the other podcasters to turn up. They'll solve it.
Right, exactly. Yeah. All right, so let's get into our top 5 list and our top 5 serial killer films, shall we?
Yeah, one thing before we do go though, because
yes,
we had a bit of discussion. It's not going to involve slasher movies because even though they kill people in a serial kind of way, it's a different kind of genre, and we'll probably do a list about that at some point in the future. And also, there was we talked about whether Psycho should be in it or not, which it can and it can't be, but it's a brilliant film anyway. So it's not going to be on our lists, even though it's brilliant. So it's an honorable mention.
Yeah, I think we decided probably a good chance we would have both had Psycho as number 1, which just seems a little bit obvious. And again, it's like some people say it's the first slasher film, so on that reason it doesn't belong. Others could certainly make a case for it being a more traditional serial killer movie, but I feel like Psycho kind of is its own, it deserves its own category, I also don't think we need to draw more attention to it and be like, hey, if you haven't, are you aware of this movie called Psycho? I feel like not that it doesn't deserve to be on the list because of that, because a lot of my movies are really famous ones, but I just, it's like, okay, I don't know if we need to talk more about Psycho. It's a film that's been discussed at length already, even on our show. So, yes, we decided to leave it off, but just know it's definitely in the pantheon.
We put a pen in Psycho on the corkboard with the red string going to all the other films and making, the conspiracy and working out.
Exactly.
It was Hitchcock in the end. That's what it was.
Right.
But do you want to kick things off with your number 5?
Absolutely. So my number 5 is actually one that I'm not entirely sure fits the category, but I think it does. I mean, I'm saying it does, but some people could argue that it doesn't. And it is a Dutch film from, I believe, 1988, and it's called The Vanishing.
Yeah. No.
And they remade it. There was a U.S. remake with Jeff Bridges and Kiefer Sutherland, which I actually like, even though they changed the ending. I think it's still a pretty good film. But the original, The Vanishing, is a really terrific, creepy movie. It's about this guy. He's like your very normal, average, everyday. I think he's like a professor or something. And he sort of becomes fascinated with abducting a woman and does all these practice trial runs on how to abduct her and times everything and uses what kind of different chemicals and all this stuff, and basically then he does abduct this woman, and then the movie shifts to her. I think they were boyfriend and girlfriend at the time, or fiance, or something like that, and he becomes obsessed with finding her. So in a way, it's not a serial killer movie because there's not that many murders in the film. We don't really know how many people he may or may not have killed, but I feel like it's included because it's sort of like watching the birth of a serial killer, right? There is this whole methodology that goes into it, and I think that at the end of the movie, I don't want to spoil anything, so I won't say anything, but you could certainly make a case to say, like, hey, if everything was to just continue on as it is in the beginning of the movie, this guy would go on to kill many more people. And so to me, it is very much like watching a serial killer practice, which I think is fascinating. And it's a really good film. There's a neat Criterion Collection edition of the movie on Blu-ray and DVD if you haven't seen it. If you've only seen the American version, or if you haven't and you want to watch it, it's still good, but definitely the original, The Vanishing, is worth tracking down. I think it's an excellent film.
Yeah, good call. Yeah, I'd say I think it fits the criteria. I enjoyed both versions, although I think the original one just pips things to the post a bit. But yeah, good film, and it's as you say, it is like the birth of a serial killer.
Yeah,
it's almost like he's just curious to see if he could do it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, but yeah, that's good pick. Mine number 5 is kind of a big film. It's it's 1991's The Silence of the Lambs, which, as we all know, had Anthony Hopkins as Dr. Hannibal Lecter, and that's often the focus of the film. But let's not forget he was only in it for like 12 or 13 minutes. But the main thrust of the film is Clarice Starling trying to track down the serial killer Buffalo Bill, and we see Bill catching a new victim, taking her back to his house and torturing her and putting lotion in the basket and showing why he's doing it and some of the things which he gets up to. And it's often I always feel like it's a brilliant film in so many ways, but I always feel like Buffalo Bill sort of gets overshadowed by the Hannibal Lecter bits because, as I say, he's only in it for such a small amount. But the performance by I always forget his name.
Hopkins.
No, not Anthony Hopkins. Ted Levine as Buffalo Bill. Jamie Buffalo Bill Gum. I think his performance is amazing. And when I realized that the lead detective in the Monk TV show was the same guy, I went, that couldn't be him. But yeah, it was a great performance, and it just shows how, because you realize that the guy, Buffalo Bill, he's not that intelligent, but he's very intelligent when it comes to this particular aspect of the thing he's doing. And it's good the way you see him, how he goes through the motions of what he does, and how he tricks people into like the police and the FBI into making them not think it's him, diverting them from it. And it's just, I like the way as well how we see Jodie Foster work it out and track him down as well. But I think it's a great portrayal of both the serial killer and the investigation into him as well. And then you've got Anthony Hopkins just being awesome doing his Hannibal Lecter. But that's my number 5.
Great choice. All right, well, my number 4 is from 1995, and it is probably the biggest box office champ serial killer movie. Well, maybe not the biggest, but it's certainly up there. It is Seven, directed by David Fincher and starring Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman. And boy, it is like, I was trying to think of like a movie that was like that successful, but was like that grimdark, you know what I mean? And I don't know that I can think of any other ones. Like Seven is a dark movie, from start to finish. I mean, just some grisly murders, what's in the box, all that stuff. It is a dark film, and yet somehow it is still just a really great, thrilling, engaging, movie. Just really twisted and demented in some ways, but basically it's a serial killer who's kind of reenacting the 7 sins of man, and Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman are the detectives who are trying to stop him. And it has an excellent performance in it as well by Kevin Spacey. I know he is kind of persona non grata these days, but doesn't change the body of work that he turned in, and this was an excellent earlier performance from him. But I remember seeing this movie in theaters because obviously it was a big hit and everyone wanted to go see it, and I went and saw it, and I was like, wow, it's a little bit of a shell shock when you come out of that theater watching that for the first time. But I do think it's a great movie, and David Fincher's an excellent director. So that's my number 4, 7.
Yeah, it's also my number 4.
Hey, look at that.
Yeah. So it's as everything you said is true. It's I love all the performances by everybody involved. I like the way as well. I mean, you're seeing all the dreadful things. Well, you don't even see half the dreadful things that John Doe, the serial killer, is doing. But you're seeing the aftermath. You're seeing the reactions of Pitt and Freeman. But I also like the fact there's lots of times as well where it's not just manic chasing after the villain. There's lots of times where they're sat in like a cafe or in a library or in the office talking about that or talking about other things, which slows things down. It's just, as you say, it's a grim, dark movie full of horrendous things, but it's just
There's
it's
a
one
movie to it, though.
you can watch it again and again. It's one of those ones. Sometimes you go, somebody goes, you watch 7, and you go, well, and then they start, and you just get sucked into it. But I also liked as well the reveal of of the bad guy comes at a point when you don't expect it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some brilliant chasing. I love the fact that the city itself is like a character, and it seems to be raining all the time until the end. I saw there was a good YouTube video. I can't remember who did it though, but talking about how 7 could also be a prequel to Batman, and it could be all set in Gotham City, because I don't think they ever mention what city it's in. And the Kevin Spacey character could be like a proto Batman villain, but that's beside the point. But it's I just like the way they were doing it. But it's ultra stylish, but it just works so well. And the bit on the bed as well with its sloth.
Yeah.
Every time, even though I know it's coming, I still jump every time.
Yep, every time.
Yeah, but that's
I joked for a long time after that movie came out that was Andrew Kevin Walker, I think is the name of the screenwriter, and I was like, how does that guy get a date? Like, I hope he's already married, because you imagine being like, so what do you do? It's like, oh, I'm a screenwriter. Like, oh, any movies I've seen? Like, yeah, I wrote 7. I'd be like, okay, thanks, bye. Like, what? Like, because he comes up with such crazy ways to kill the movie. You're like, who's gonna want to go on a date with that guy?
Oh, totally. And then, whenever he sent you a parcel, you just wouldn't want to open it.
Right. What's in the box? All right. So my number 3 is from 1986, and it is related to a film that you mentioned, but different, and it is Manhunter. And so Manhunter is the early version, the first screen version of Hannibal Lecter, with William Peterson playing Will Graham, kind of the investigator, and Brian Cox playing Hannibal Lecter. And it is based on the first book that had Hannibal Lecter in it, not the second book, which was Silence of the Lambs. So it's kind of a separate storyline, a separate version, I guess you could say. It's not like Silence of the Lambs was a sequel to Manhunter, although the stories are kind of loosely connected. But it was directed by Michael Mann, one of Michael Mann's earliest films, one of the few Michael Mann films I actually like. And it's William Peterson, who of course went on to be on CSI, playing an investigator. So there's a little connective tissue there as well. But it is kind of a neat. It was remade also. The version you might have seen was Red Dragon, which was remade by Brett Ratner. Also one of the few Brett Ratner films that I like.
Yeah.
But it's just a cool, different version of the Hannibal Lecter universe. It's a good story. Manhunter and Silence of the Lambs are 2 of my favorite books of all time, and so the movie versions, just by the nature of being such great stories, I think are really great as well. So, 1986 Manhunter. That's my number 3.
Yeah, it's a good pick as well. I do like Brian Cox's portrayal of Hannibal. It's different to Anthony Hopkins, but it's also. In some ways it's similar, but it's he's more, I don't want to say, but more self-assured or more Machiavellian maybe, but no.
Right.
Yeah, it's one I need to watch it again, to be honest. It's been a good few years since I've seen it, so it'd be good to watch back to back. I've never done the 2 of them.
Yeah, for sure.
And I also did like Mads Mikkelsen as the character in the Hannibal TV show.
Yeah.
Okay, my number 3 is one from 1955. Directed by Charles Lawton and starring Robert Mitchum. It's The Night of the Hunter, which is one of the best black and white films of all time. Also Charles Lawton's one and only directing jobs, even though he's a great actor as well. But he did this because I think it was slated by critics at the time, if I'm thinking right. But anyway, Robert Mitchum is playing a preacher, or is he a preacher? He has the famous photo image of him with love and hate tattooed on his knuckles. and he has a whole speech which you hear a few times in there. But he basically marries women for the money and then murders them and then moves on to the next one. But he is arrested at one point and shares a cell with a man who has talks about some money he's got, and it's hidden the money, but only 2 kids know about it. So Robert Mitchum's character tracks down the kids and then ends up getting involved with the mother, and it just goes on from there, and it becomes a chase thing. But it just looks gorgeous. It's got very theatrical in a way, especially with the way the sets are made. But the lighting is just brilliant. It uses black. The fact it's black and white is just looks gorgeous. If you're a fan of films anyway, or like filmmaking, it's just beautiful, because it's almost like it's using the visuals of a silent film, but connecting it with a talkie, as it were. But it's great. Robert Mitchum is a brilliant actor anyway, but he's just so good as this charismatic preacher who, when he's doing these talks, and you can see him convincing people, and you as the viewer just going, no, get away from him. But even every now and again, you still go, but yeah, he's got a point. But and he's chasing him down, and the kids are trying to. It turns into almost like a fairy tale. He's like the big bad wolf or one of the other bad guys from a fairy tale. But it's just a stunning film, well worth a watch, even if you're not typically a fan of a black and white film. Just track it down, check it out. I'm sure there's been some reissues over the past few years, but I can't quite remember. But that's my number 3, The Night of the Hunter.
Good. Yeah, definitely a film that is a great film and has been lauded by critics over the years as being one of the great films from that time period. So it did not make my list, mostly because it's been so long since I've seen it. I can't really... I'm pretty sure I've seen the whole thing, but I can't remember because it's been so long. So I didn't want to put it on there and then be speaking. Yeah,
it's kind of one of those films where people have probably seen bits of it.
Yeah.
It's often on a lot when I was younger, and it's often mentioned on films, on TV shows and documentaries about films as well. But
yeah, I know I've seen parts of it for sure, and I think I've watched it the whole way through. But again, not in 20 years or more. So definitely one I've been meaning to revisit though.
Yeah.
All right, my number 2 is the second film on my list by David Fincher, and it is Zodiac, starring Robert Downey Jr. and Jake Gyllenhaal. And it is a dramatized version of the famous Zodiac killings in California in the 1970s. And it is David Fincher at his most Fincherist, I think, in a way, and just in terms of like the, because it's based on a true story, which he doesn't usually do. He's so exacting with his detail, and it's a period piece. So like just the production design, the costumes, the cars, the hairstyles, like everything is down to the letter, like perfect 1970s. And it's just it's just a really riveting film. I don't want to say it doesn't try to solve the crime, but it doesn't. It doesn't give you any definitive answers as to who the Zodiac is. It certainly throws its hat in the ring as saying, hey, we're leaning heavily towards this person.
Yeah.
But it's not like hey, we solved this crime. It's definitely, just kind of like a dramatization of all of the events that happened in the investigation. And it's such a fascinating story, the Zodiac killer. Even though the body count was pretty low compared to other serial killers, it's just the whole craziness of it all, and the Zodiac and the letters and all that stuff is fascinating. And Fincher just captures it brilliantly. And the performances are great, and it's suspenseful and scary at times, and it's beautifully shot and well acted, and I just think it's terrific. So Zodiac is my number 2.
A great film, yeah. It was almost made my list, but not quite. But I'm glad it was on yours.
Yep.
My number 2 is it might be on your list, I don't know. But my number 2 is a film from 2001. It was Bill Paxton's directorial debut, and he also starred in it along with Matthew McConaughey and Powers Booth. But it is Frailty, which I just think is an absolutely amazing film. But it's Bill Paxton plays this religious, fanatical father of Matthew McConaughey's character. We see them first as young kids, but Bill Paxton's the father who claims he's on a mission from God to strike down demons, and it's all he finds an axe, and it's meant to have been sent by God, and the demons are people. But it's showing what he did to go around and get these people, and how he killed them and how he disposed of them. And then it shows how the effects it has on his two children, his 2 sons, and how they grow up with it, and they end up becoming a part of their father's madness, as it were, but and how that affects them and how one of them moves on or doesn't. And then we have Powers Booth, who's always brilliant as the FBI agent tracking them down. But I remember seeing this once, didn't know much about it, apart from I knew Bill Paxton from Aliens and everything else because he's so good. And I remember just watching and just getting blown away from it because I didn't know anything about it. And then when you're watching it first and you're going, oh, this is okay, this is what's going on. Oh no. And you realize what's happening and what's going to happen. And it's a few twists and turns as well. And it's a brilliant film. I'm sure lots of you will have seen it, but it's not one which really went across the mainstream, I don't think. It's sort of probably a bit more well known in a cult film or different kind of thing. When is a cult film not a cult?
Oops, sorry about that.
He's calling in with an answer.
That's my phone. Sorry about that.
That's my number 2. It's a brilliant film. If you haven't seen it, find it and watch it because it's fantastic.
I love Frailty, and I know it definitely has been on the show a few times before. I'm pretty sure it's in our top 10 list for that year. And it's a film I really enjoy and I have an affinity for. And I considered it for this list, and I ultimately didn't put it on there. And I think the reason I decided not to was in my mind, I don't think I quite think of it as a serial killer film. It certainly is, but it's more a film about the madness and the family relationships and stuff like that than it is to me. Like when I think of a serial killer film, not to say it shouldn't have been on your list because I thought about putting it on mine. When I looked at the films, I was kind of like the ones I picked are I think a little more traditional serial killer movies. I think so. That was the only reason I didn't put it on there. But I do love that movie. So
I understand that. Yeah, because it is more like a horror movie,
right?
But it's not a slasher movie.
Right, not a slasher movie.
It could have been like Bill Paxton's character could have been filmed as a slasher movie as well.
Right. Yeah, it's an interesting cross mix of genres. But like I said, in my mind, I think I went with a more traditional view. So, but I did think about it. I thought about it, and I hemmed and hawed. All right, so my number 1 has already appeared on your list, and if you listen to my comments on a previous film of my own, it should come as no surprise. It is Silence of the Lambs, which to me is just kind of the king, the granddaddy of all the serial killer movies. Everything you said, I agree with, and you're right, like in how Buffalo Bill does get overshadowed by Hannibal Lecter, but it's just such a perfect movie to me. It works on so many levels. Like, Jodie Foster is amazing, and her investigation is a bigger part of the movie than you remember. Like when people think of Silence, they remember Hannibal Lecter, but when you watch the movie, it really is fascinating watching her track down this Buffalo Bill killer. And then Buffalo Bill is this fascinating, character, like you said, played by Ted Levine in just such a creepy way, and then there's then there is the Hannibal Lecter stuff. And then you've got Scott Glenn as the FBI agent. You've got Clarice as, what's interesting is she's not just like a seasoned FBI veteran. She's like a rookie agent in training type character. And that's a whole nother level to it. So like, it just works on so many levels, and it's just so memorable and so enjoyable to watch, even though it's a dark film. But yeah, I absolutely love it. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. I forget where it came in on my list, but I'm pretty sure it was on my top 20 films of all time when we did that way back when. So of course it had to be my number 1. So there you go. Silence of the Lambs.
An excellent choice. And it's a good point. It is one of those films where I've seen it lots of times as well, but every time I do watch it, I sort of I've forgotten it. Like you forget how much of the investigation is and lots of the different scenes because your mind just does go to like the scenes with Hannibal, the scenes with Buffalo Bill, the basket and trying on clothes and things.
Right.
But it's because it's a long film as well. But it's a brilliant film and always worth a watch. But I'm glad it was on your list and it's your number 1.
Yeah.
My number 1 is a film which from 2018. I think I might have mentioned it in one of the videos. I can't remember, but it's an indie film, and it's The Clovehitch Killer.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It stars Dylan McDermott and Charlie Plummer, Samantha Mathis, and Madison Beatty. But it's quite a simple film. It's a small film, but it's a family who mother, father, son, and daughter from a religious kind of neighborhood. They'll go to church every Sunday. The dad helps out. He's a scout leader. And everybody likes him. The father helps out and everything. But the son, there was mention years before of of a serial killer who's going around called the Cloverfield Killer because of a knot because the knots he did, but then he stopped. But then the son starts realizing things about the father, and he's not sure whether his dad could actually be the Cloverfield Killer, and it's about him, the son, investigating it, but doesn't want his dad to know about it and finding out things. And you're like, it's just what's good about it, and what I really like about it is it shows. It's probably one of the serial killer movies that shows one of the more true to life portrayals of a serial killer, as it were, because it shows they are just a person like you or me or the neighbor or the person you see walking down the street, and it just shows the banality of it behind their life and what it is, and how like whatever causes them to do it is just like a little kink here and there, a little turn, and they have these urges and things where they have to go and do. But you're watching it from the viewpoint, you're with the viewpoint of the son as well as he's learning it, and he's talking to his dad because he wants to find out, but his dad is the person he loves and trusts, and he wants to talk about it with him, but his dad's the one who could be this thing, and you're just there going, don't do it, don't do it. And you're going, well, does the dad got onto it? Is he a serial killer, or is it all in his head? And the way it's done is just brilliant. Dylan McDermott is just stunning in it. It's watch the film. It's just brilliant. It's so well done. And it's
yeah, I've been meaning to watch it. It's been on my list for a while. I've heard very good things about it. I just have not gotten to it yet, but I do really want to watch it. So when I get to it, I'll update you guys as to whether it supplants anything on my list.
Yeah, it might not, but it's just even that it's just a well-made film, small film, but it's just this the way a normal life, the way life can be normal, but but some people have secrets and they're hidden away, and it's just
right.
Yeah, you want to find out the secret, but you don't because you know how bad it will be.
Right.
That's my number one. The Cloverfield Killer.
I like it. All right, so there you go. That is our top 5 serial killer movies. Dark subject, but also just some good movies. So, but let's move on to happier things. Let's move into our ATE recommends segment where we talk about things that we're digging on right now.
Yeah, mine is the big book of serial killers. No, it's not.
Things we like to watch and read and listen to and eat and do all kinds of stuff with right now. So ATE recommends. I guess I should go first because I started the list, right? Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, but you went first last time. No, yeah. I went first last time on the recommendation, so you go first now.
I'll do it then. So I only have one today, and it's an easy one, but I have to mention it. It is the new Weezer album, Van Weezer. I love me some Weezer. I'm a diehard Weezer fan. I have been for years and years. But their new album, Van Weezer, is kind of a tribute to 80s rock, which I've been really into lately ever since I read that book that I recommended a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a tribute to like the bands like Van Halen and those 80s bands, the big power rock stuff. So it still definitely sounds like Weezer, but you can see the influences of the 80s music in the songs. And not only in their sound, but also some of the lyrics. There's a great song, the last track, called Precious Metal Girl. It's all about falling in love with a girl who's into metal. And he says, you look like you could be in Faster Pussycat with your leather jacket with the patches on the back. It's just great. It's a fun album. It's really upbeat and energetic. And if you like Weezer at all, I can't recommend this one highly enough. And if you like Weezer and 80s rock music, you're really going to enjoy Van Weezer. So check it out.
Okay, I'll have to listen to that because I'm trying to imagine what a Weezer doing 80s rock would sound like. So I want to know.
It sounds like Weezer, just like with their amps turned up to 11. You know what I mean?
Cool. Yeah, I'll have a listen. Okay, well I've got 2. Both of them are books. Both of them are kind of based around role-playing games. I know I've been doing a few ones, but I do like a bit of H.P. Lovecraft and Call of Cthulhu. And this one is a cookbook because of what's been going on. Lots of people stuck in the houses, so lots of cooking. But this one is called The Necro Nom Nom Nom. Which I think is brilliant, but it's got a gorgeous cover.
Yeah, look at that.
It's all shiny and it's all raised and everything, but it's by Mike Slater, and it's recipes and rites from the lore of H.P. Lovecraft. And it's just, if you like puns, it's full of puns based around Lovecraft and food. You got the trying to find someone which people would know. To call forth the sandwich horror. Yeah, the fate of the elder things, curried favor of the old ones. Shogulath. But it's good as well because the recipes, you got all this creepy artwork as well.
Oh yeah,
that creepy artwork. But the recipes are all done in the style as if it was an investigator from a H.P. Lovecraft book. So it's It's like prepare a large glass, bless it with the touch of a thin tendril of wasabi.
Huh.
You not completely encircle the rim, as this will allow revelers to imbibe as much or as little, but it's all done like that, and it's just got creepy artwork, creepy descriptions, but it also has all the recipes at the back as well, in great detail. But it's a lot of fun. If you know somebody who likes H.P. Lovecraft and Call of Cthulhu and cooking, it's got cocktails, main courses, desserts, what have you. It's all good. And my second book is the new Dungeons and Dragons source book, Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, which is all to do with
I've seen that.
Yeah, the Dread Domains, or Domains of Dread, which many of you will know from the Curse of Strahd adventure. He's in it, but there's all these other domains, which I think it's 40 altogether, all going from cosmic horror to serial killer horror to clockwork horror, basically every type of horror, but it also gives you details on how to make your own domain of dread, and also your Dark Lord, because all these domains of dread are basically prisons for Dark Lords, and it just has all these charts and things to do about that. So it's good for role-playing games, not just Dungeons and Dragons, but anyone if you want a bit of horror. But also if you're a writer and you want some different ways of coming up with a bad guy, in fantasy or sci-fi, it's worth that. But it's out now on D&D Beyond, and obviously books, and yeah, that's my recommendation.
Very cool. All right. Well, there you go. That was a nice dark recommendation ending to a dark episode, I guess. So.
Yes, unintentional, but yes.
Yeah, very cool. All right, so there you go. Our top 5 list, our recommendations. That's going to start to wrap up our post-credits episode. So we're gonna finish things up. I think we've been talking long enough for now. So as always, thank you to those of you who joined in live and commented. Thank you to all of you who are listening and or watching after the fact. But this is going to do us for now. So as always, thanks again for listening and watching. And I'm Mike Spring.
And I'm Phil Edwards.
And we'll see you next time.
After the ending.